Alright engineers, so for this next project, we're going to be making a device to lock away your cell phones while you're supposed to be on Zoom. And to get started on that, we need to actually measure your real life cell phones. So I am assuming that you guys all have a ruler at home. But to 3D model this, we need some pretty precise measurements. And while I'm sure you guys know how to measure things to the nearest inch on a ruler, I'm not sure if you guys know how to do it to a high degree of engineering precision. So to do that, we're going to have to figure out what these smaller measurements on the ruler are, so we can be really accurate. So let's take a closer look. So obviously we have our 1 inch mark right here. But you can see there are all these little lines that divide up that 1 inch into smaller measurements. So let's take a look at what those are. So first one is pretty easy. If we cut an inch in half, we're going to fall right on this line right here. You see this is one of the taller lines because these are the more important ones. So this one right in the middle, you can probably guess actually, this is our 1/2 mark, or 0.5. Now you'll see that there are similarly sized lines here and here, and those actually divide the halves in half. So we call those measurements quarters, and these are going to be 1/4 like that. So we've got 1/4. Another way of writing 1/2 is basically 2/4, and then we have 3/4 right here. So that already gets us more precision. We can measure things to the nearest quarter of an inch. But now, let's take an even closer look. These quarters are also divided up. They also have their own medium-sized line right here, and that is 1/2 of a quarter. So these measurements are called 1/8. So we have 1/8 right here. We have 2/8 or 1/4 right there. And then this next line is 3/8, then 5/8, and last we have 7/8. Now if you look even closer, you'll see that we have 16ths right here. So if you want to measure something really accurately, you can go all the way down to 16ths here. But for this project, we only need to go as far as 8ths. Now, how do you use this practically? Well, when you're measuring, you're first going to look for the nearest inch. And then if whatever you're measuring, say it ends right there, well, we put that on the ruler, we see it's 2 and 2.25 right there. That would be our mark right there. So we would write that as 2 and 1/4. Now you can also convert this into decimals, which you're going to need to do by dividing this. So we need to split this up, but what you can do is, if you need to, you can take a calculator and you're going to divide that, and you're going to figure out that this is actually 2.25. And we can do that for all of the other measurements as well. Now, what are we going to do with this? Well, like I said, we're going to be measuring your guys' phones. It's because, like I said, we're going to be making a case for these. So we need to figure out what the length, width, and height of these phones is, or of your phone is. So let's go ahead and start off with the length here. So this is my phone. You're going to have different measurements for yours, of course. Alright, so let's go ahead and put this down right here. And it looks like for my particular phone, this goes up to 5 3/4 inches. So that's going to be the length for my phone. So up here, I'm going to write 5 3/4, which is equivalent to 5.75. Alright, so that's my first measurement. Let's move on to the width. And for the width, this one is a little bit smaller. This one goes up to 2 and looks like 7/8. So that's going to be 2 7/8 And I can't do that particular one in my head, so once I get a calculator, I'll go ahead and fill in that decimal. And last we have the height. Alright, so the way that you're going to get a measurement of your phone is by laying it flat on the table, putting your ruler standing up vertically like this, and you can come over and look at it from the side. So for my phone with the case on, we're looking at, looks like 3/8. So 3/8 right there. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and divide those up. So these are the measurements that I'm going to use as I'm designing this phone case. All right, so once you guys have gone through and measured your phones, you're going to take those measurements, your length and width and height, and we're going to go over to TinkerCAD. Now, what do you do if you don't have a cell phone? Well, use your parents. Ask them for permission, ask them for help to measure it, and we'll go with those measurements. All right, engineers, I'll see you guys in TinkerCAD. Engineers, so now that we have our measurements done, we're going to go ahead and move into TinkerCAD so we can actually make this design. So from within the document here, you can click on your class period, and that should take you to TinkerCAD and allow you to sign in. Now, because we're making our own design, you just need to click on Create New Design here. There's no lesson that you're going to be following. You're just going to be following along the instructions from this video. Alright, so we're going to start making this distraction-free phone vault. So we're going to start by making the outside of the box. So this is what's going to actually hold the phone. So this means that we need to make a box that has larger dimensions than the ones that we measured. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to take each of those measurements and we're going to add 1/2 inch to them. That way there's enough space on each side to have a wall there. So let's go ahead and get this box out here. And we're going to set the length, width, and height to our measurements. Now there's one thing that we need to do first though. We measured our phone in inches, and all of these measurements here are in millimeters. That's why these are so big. You see it says 20 for all of these, and yet it's a very small box. So we're going to go down here to the bottom right corner where it says Snap Grid. I'm going to switch this over. Actually, we're going to go to Edit Grid. I'm going to change the units here from millimeters to inches. And that is going to update our measurements and make them a little bit more consistent for us. Now, the way that I'm going to set this, I want this to essentially be standing up. So first, and it's going to kind of disagree with what the labels are here, but first I'm going to set the width of this box, and again this is going to be 1/2 inch larger than our measurements. So here this is going to be 3.275, which is actually 3.375. Which is 1/2 inch larger than the 2.875 that I measured previously. And then we can come around to this angle, and then we're going to set the depth here. So this is going to correspond to the height of the phone as we measured it, and this one's going to be 0.875. And last we have the height here. And this one's actually going to correspond to the length of the phone. And this one is going to be 6.25. Alright, so there's our outer section. This is the outside here. And now we need to cut a hole in the center of it that the phone is actually going to pass into. So for this, I'm going to get the whole version. And for this one, I'm going to use the exact measurements that I recorded before. So that means that this is going to be 2.875, and this one should be the exact measurements that you recorded earlier. This direction is going to be 3.75, actually 0.375. Watch that decimal point. And interesting thing here, the height is actually going to be pretty large here. The height, which corresponds to the length of the phone. Remember, we're modeling this kind of like it's standing up. This needs to be quite long so that it actually goes all the way through everything else. You'll see what I mean in just a second. So I'm going to make this 6 inches right there. And in fact, I think we can even go a little bit larger. I'm going to go to 6.5 inches. That's because we need this to extend far enough that we actually have space to add the phone into this opening. So now that we have the box and the hole for the phone here, I'm going to click on this and we're going to raise this up 1/4 of an inch. I want it to be raised up 0.25 inches. You can also type that in right here if you need to be precise. In fact, let's do that and double check. Alright, so it's raised up just a little bit off the ground, and now we need to align these two pieces. So I'm going to highlight both and select Align. And I want them to be lined up like this. See how this one's sticking out through the top? That's going to be the opening that we need in order to add the phone to this vault. So now that they're lined up, I'm going to go ahead and group them. And you can see what we've made. It's basically a box with the hole going straight through it. Now, there is one more thing we need to add on here, and that is an opening for a lock. So I'm going to get a cylinder, and I'm going to make this cylinder much smaller first. So let's go with just 0.125 inches on each side. And here, I'm going to flip it over so that it's horizontal like this. And now I'm going to put this cylinder way up here at the very top so that it's actually centered with the box. I want it to be almost at the very top, but not quite. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and align these like we did before. And I want to make sure that this cylinder goes all the way through the box. I want to make sure that it actually reaches through the other side of it. Alright, so that looks about right. If I can go a little bit further that way. And we may just need to extend the length of this. So what this is going to do is this is going to add a hole at the top of it. And the idea is that you're going to put your phone into the vault, and then you can add a little lock to this, and that's going to stop you from taking the phone out. And the reason for this is just so that while you're in class or when you're supposed to be paying attention to your teacher on Zoom, you don't have your phone there as a distraction. Now, you may not think this is the greatest idea, but I think it's something that, if it was a real product, I think it could be interesting and possibly helpful. Now, there's one last step here. We're going to go ahead and add a label to this. So go ahead and grab the text block from over here, and you can change the text. And you can do one of two things here. Either you can write your name on the box, or you can try and come up with a name for this product. I'm personally going to just go ahead and add my name here. But if you can think of a design or a brand or a logo for this product, if it was a real thing, you can go ahead and put that there instead. Now, the way to add this to our label, or add this text to our box, is we're going to rotate it so it's standing up. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit. I don't think it needs to be ½ inch. I'm going to go with 0.1 here. I'm also going to change the color. And now we can begin to align these. I want this to be at the front, of course. And from there, it's just a matter of sort of playing with the placement. I think something like that works just fine. Alright, engineers, and that's going to be it for this week. So it's a pretty quick design that we've got here. I hope you guys have a little bit of fun with it, and I hope especially that you guys do well on measuring the phones in real life. That's kind of the big takeaway for this week. And welcome back from your Thanksgiving break. I hope you guys enjoyed your week off, and have a good day.